Dum, dum.
Well, as we always say, no takebacks because we are live once again. Kind of a haphazard schedule, but that's okay.
Well, it's just about creating content, talking, creating content, talking, creating content, right? You know,
Yeah,
just
and
you put it
I
out.
I think a lot of people don't realize that the time that it takes behind the scenes to put any whether it's a podcast, whether it's just a regular YouTube or Facebook video or whatever, it takes a certain amount of time to put a show together because most of the time you can't just do it off the cuff.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and to the people that do podcasts and shows and all of that, I mean, look, there is a lot of work that goes into it. Even the ones that just doesn't do the video, like what we're doing here, that do the audio. I mean, it is a lot, and you know, I appreciate the work people do, whether I agree with them or not. I appreciate the work that they're doing, and it is somewhat work,
Yeah.
thankless work because we don't make any money off of it.
Well, that is true. Although, in full disclosure, the outdoor news is now monetized on YouTube. So technically, we're making a few little pennies off of this, but that's about
Right, right. Pennies, pennies,
pennies.
pennies. What does that
Yes.
what does that pay?
So you're not
Nothing.
going to be building a pool no time soon?
No, no time soon. But as soon as we can afford that, Josh, I'll invite you up to swim in my pool, and then we'll build you one too.
All right. So while y'all have been yapping, and I plugged in there a little bit, I went ahead and I shared this out to Louisiana duck hunters, Mississippi Flyway duck hunting, duck hunters Louisiana, and duck hunters Mississippi. Those jump right up in my thing first and foremost. What about, let's see, Mississippi Valley hunters? I'm going to share it there. And what about Carlisle Lake? You think we ought to share it to Carlisle Lake, Josh?
Yeah, I'm sure Vince would appreciate that.
Yeah, let me find that one. There we go. Share that one there. Okay, so we're going to expand our reach just a little bit, and Rex, let's go ahead and uh, be done with the formalities here and give a little thing about the show, and then we're going to jump straight right off into this and get going.
Yeah, so first of all, I would invite everybody, if you're watching on Facebook, to go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can just search the outdoor news, all one word, and it'll pop up, and go ahead and subscribe there because Facebook deletes live videos after 30 days. YouTube does not. Now, we're streaming on both platforms, but we encourage everybody to go over to YouTube. Also, so everybody knows, I will be re-uploading all of these shows and probably my first dozen or so podcasts back to Facebook as standalone videos. I'm going to do that in the very near future. All right, couple of housekeeping deals. We don't really moderate comment except for obvious trolling or really vulgar language. Look, we're all adults here. Every now and then we may say a cuss word, but let's just not take it too far. And typically we try not to drop any F-bombs. But your comments, whether you agree with anything that Duke says, Josh says, or any little thing that I may ad lib in there, your comments are welcome. Just be aware we may show your comments on the screen. Therefore, they will be in the video forever. So, with that said, I will turn it back over to Mr. Duke Lowrie and Mr. Josh Goins. And hey, let's talk about ducks.
All right. So, Josh and Rex, I mean, look, this duck hunting stuff is just unreal. So there's all this dialogue that happens, and it's mostly in the Mississippi Flyway, but there's all this dialogue that happens, and there seems to be three groups of people. One, everybody identifies in waterfowl, social media, that they're all have the best interests of waterfowl in mind. And but then when you start having debate and you have that disagreement, especially when it comes to unharvested agriculture, flooding unharvested agriculture for the purpose of attracting waterfowl to kill them or shoot them in the face, you might say, it always seems like that the people on one side of the debate and then the people on the other side of the debate, they're two distinct classes of people. One, the people that are in favor of unharvested agriculture, it seems they, for some reason, all have an interest monetarily in the resource. Whereas the people on the other side that are opposed to it are, for the most part, public land hunters that don't have an interest monetarily. Would you agree with that, Josh?
I would agree with it 100%. And I'd go even a step further. We're now finally seeing the the tables turning a little bit because you have guys who actually have been hunting flooded unharvested crops, but they don't have as large of spreads. Therefore, a lot of the birds go nocturnal in their areas. Therefore, they are sick of the big commercial guys. And you're now seeing the scales finally tip. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're seeing over time more and more people are considering alternatives than the status quo, that we've been told forever: climate change, habitat loss, all these different factors as being the reason that, there's distribution changes, and people are considering and looking at things, with a different lens. But back to the thing is that, it almost invariably, and every single time when you start having a debate with some of these people and you go look it up and you start doing some research on those people, you end up find that one way or another they were trying to make money or currently make money off the resource. It's part of their job. I don't sell a duck call. I don't go guiding duck hunting anywhere. Uh, I'm not a waterfowl biologist. I admit that. Am I a whack job from Louisiana? Yeah, certifiable, certifiable. But I in no way make a dollar off of the resource. Do you, Josh?
No, I don't.
Well,
But
let
a lot
me
of people think that we're somehow making money.
let me interject a little commentary to spur a little thought. So the duck camps and all that here in Louisiana, the guided duck hunts and all that, are they raising a lot of heck over the corn situation, or what seems to be their stance?
Um, so a lot of them, I mean, I'm friends with a bunch of them, and to be honest with you, a lot of them, some of them speak out against it. A lot of them don't speak out because they look at it as if they had a car lot and every car on their lot has flat tires. And they're not gonna say online every car has flat tires on my parking lot, but come buy a car from me. But this was the first year I've actually ever seen guide services in Louisiana speak out publicly on Facebook, and it was during teal season. I think we talked about it on the last show, dude. And they actually were telling people, turn around, don't come. If you scheduled a hunt with us, we're sorry. We'll try to make it up to you. They're not here. And if you did come, we appreciate it. We're sorry that the hunt was bad. But that is the first time I have ever, since we started this fight, I can ever remember any of them speaking out. Am I right about that, dude?
Yeah, I agree. And there's some of them that, look, they've been around a while. They've been in the business. They make products that they sell in the industry, and they know that they more or less can't speak out, because if they do speak out and they show support for what we're alleging, that, they'll be labeled a crackpot, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist just like us. And which that's the go-to for those folks. I mean, is to do that, is to try to, marginalize us, is to say that, oh, we're crackpots and all this crap. But their problem with that is that we just keep posting all of the previously published information. We're not making any of this crap up. The charts that we put up, where does those numbers come from? Mississippi Flyway Data Book. You know, all of these stats are we don't if crackpots would just create stuff out of thin air that didn't exist. But we're not doing that. We're sharing factual information that, because we're not a biologist, apparently we're not supposed to look at or be able to interpret ourselves. We're supposed to only allow those so-called educated, you know, PhD level professors to tell us what it says. We're not supposed to have a mind of our own.
Dude, it's so funny that you say that because I was thinking about this exact same thing the other day, and whenever I was looking at a paycheck, and I'm like, you know what? People every week look at their paycheck, knowing at how many hours that they work, they know how much money they're supposed to get, and they double check those hours versus any bonuses or any, and they will call out the payroll department if anything is off. But guess what? They aren't accountants. They're not certified to look at those numbers, but yet they have common sense and they know math and they can read. And if they catch a flaw in their paycheck, what is their job to do? To call the payroll department and say, hey, we have a problem here. That is exactly what all the duck hunters in the United States and especially in the Mississippi Flyway has to do is say, hey, okay, y'all, DU, Delta, all you guys, you are the experts, but we are here to keep checks and balances because I read this, and you're saying this and this, and it's not adding up. And that's what we've had over the past ever how many years that we've been arguing this, but now they keep losing and moving the goalpost, move the goalpost. Okay. And now we're finally at the final straws, and it's climate or it's pressure. They've
No, it's no,
lost the battle on
no,
all this other stuff.
no, 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 no. It's not climate or any of that anymore. Now the new one is hybridization. It's hybridization, Josh. Right? That miss
Oh
that
Lord.
Mississippi guy. Isn't that what he was saying?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That was one thing. And then speaking of things that people say in articles and podcasts and different things that isn't bringing factual data into the situation. They just say it and then they're like, okay, go find it for yourself. But
yeah, well,
that's what we're saying.
yeah. So these there's some of these so-called biologists that and that guy that hybridization thing. He is actually he came from a circle of uh, biologist, so via his education. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I really don't know. I think there's I think there's something to what he's saying. But again,
I agreed with a lot of it, but there was a lot of it that he was very vague about.
that's right. So one person that we've talked about on this show before, and we've talked about that actually is talking about us, but hasn't. I don't think they've actually said our names, but describing us here recently is that what's his name, the duck doctor guy or Schumer guy or Mike Schumer, foul weather
Yeah.
or four weather or something, foul weather, yeah, foul weather podcast. And he found occasion here recently to kind of get talk. Now look, we'll start off here, and look, I don't disagree with everything that he says. I think some of what he says is on the mark, but we're going to break down in two episodes some of the stuff that he said. And Rex, if you want to start us off, um, he makes here a point about duck managers and being replaced at the 2024 mark, I think.
All right, well, here we should be pretty close. I'm going to hit play. Here we go.
incentive payments to save the prairies. But the reality is that CRP came from the minds and hearts of game bird biologists and was meant to save one of the most endangered ecosystems on the planet, the U.S. prairies. But guess what? Yep, it got hijacked too, and now those funds are spent all over the place trying to save every critter and every habitat everywhere, and that dilution is not the solution. It is time to bring CRP back to the prairies and save the ducks. Last, so much of the habitat work we do, like moist soil management, the emergent marsh cycle, green tree reservoirs, and coastal wetland restoration, say for black ducks, it supports an entire suite of species well beyond ducks and other game animals. But the idea is, let's stop doing that and do something for the non-game animals. Our non-game brethren would do well to first determine if the waterfowl management is helping a wide range of species already.
Let me see if I can find the right spot in there.
Yeah, so yeah, we can stop there and then we'll jump forward to the 1106 mark. But I agree with what he's saying, but my point that I would say to what he's saying, and he's not saying this, he's supposed to say everything, right? Well, yeah, our CRP money got hijacked. We've been talking about on the show in which why does he have fault with us? He'd rather us just shut up. But why is he not talking about who was in charge, who was in waterfowl management, who was asleep at the wheel when our CRP got hijacked? Josh, I mean, he's not telling you who's been in control, who allowed these to hijack everything.
Well, it's the whole point of just like you, whenever you was pointing out all the funding that's been spent in the Midwest, dude. So that funding comes from some program. And if you look at the spending that has been done, completed in wintering habitat and carryover habitat and stopping over habitat, all that funding is being utilized. And I think Schumer's on the mark with it being used for other things, because we've seen that before as well. We've seen, butterfly habitats being protected and moose, and we understand that. But from a duck standpoint, from a waterfowler, whenever we are wanting money spent, we're wanting it spent on waterfowl grounds. But what is happening is you have a lot of supply and demand issues. So you have a huge demand for the resource in the middle of the flyway and down the flyway, and you have a supply chain, which is breeding grounds, and it's underneath a drought right now. We all know that. That's no hidden secret. But whenever you mix in the phone calls that I receive from guys that just got back from Canada, and they're like, dude, some of the only potholes that still have water in them, we were watching the farmers pump them out and disking them, like right in front of them. They're taking videos of it. So
yeah, so
you have a bad problem up there, and that should be grassland, CRP money, shouldn't it?
Yeah, so he's right. He's right. The CRP got hijacked and the funds went all over. I agree with him. I mean, it makes you wonder.
But it's going to the different places.
But some grant writer somewhere is writing grants somewhere else. You'd have thought somebody would have said, wait a minute, if this money's going here or there, shouldn't it be going to CRP? Was some of that grant money going different places? Should have been money that was hijacked or looked at in that view. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, and y'all will understand what I'm saying.
I think I know where you're going with this one.
But I mean, he's right in what he's saying, but he's not looking in the mirror for some reason. I think he might ought to freaking glance in the mirror. So Rex, let's jump to the 1106 mark.
Chaos that duck hunting has invited upon itself. They are not to blame. You are for creating chaos out of something that is meant to be an enjoyable time in the marsh, in the woods, and on the rivers. So yeah, my wife and I didn't sleep in the marsh the other night, only to be invaded upon at 6 a.m. and yelled at by others, rained on by shot, sky busting abounds, and nobody understanding swing ducks. Those aren't your targets. Maybe starting to make duck hunting culture something enjoyable again is about learning when not to go. And here's the deal. A lot of folks are unsuccessful on duck hunts. Heck, some people are unsuccessful for the year if they only...
I think we went the wrong 1106. Go to there's only 1106 remaining.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I screwed that up.
That's all right. Hold on. I think he was actually at the 20. It'd be about the 25-minute mark, I think. Hold on. That's the one I was listening to.
I realize the error of my ways when we get to the next episode that we're going to cover here of this, and I put the negative on everyone.
All right, hold on.
All the tiny seeds.
All right, 1106. Yeah. All right, let me jump up just a little bit.
Read water plant,
and I'll have us there, I think.
Mallards rely upon.
And I jumped it too much.
This is the
All right, here we go. Let's try this one.
Ongoing corn comment, which in my opinion is ridiculous given all the stuff that ducks eat and rely upon across the vast landscape that we call North America. The people crying about flooded corn probably couldn't list half a dozen non-domestic plants that mallards rely upon. And my guess is they couldn't even name 3 bugs that ducks regularly eat without Googling, what do ducks eat? But word on the street is that they are the authority and taking it all to the highest court about flooded corn. Anyhow, okay, to the point.
So, and it's the same guy that said that we weren't really getting that many views or whatever, and so it didn't matter. It's just the same guy.
Yeah, he says it again here in one of these here in just a second ago.
It must matter a little bit. He keeps mentioning it, but I digress.
He keeps talking about us, so yeah, it must be something. But talking about the highest court in the land. I mean, I think I know who he's talking about. Josh, you think he's talking about us? And I don't
say so, man.
What did he say, that we know everything, or that we label ourselves as knowing everything? I don't label myself as knowing anything. In fact, I'm a non-biologist. I don't know a damn thing. I'm at best a Rhodes Scholar of Stupidville.
Well, let me posit this theory. So, number one, both you and Josh regularly say that y'all aren't, experts. But number two, is, and I'm just sitting here looking at his YouTube channel, so I don't have no idea about his Spotify stats or anything. That's his business. But the YouTube, we can easily surmise. His Foul Weather podcast right now has 48 subscribers, 110 videos, and he's got one view, 2 views, 8 views, 32 views, blah, 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 etc. So that's not, a total determinant of how popular and widespread his podcast is, because maybe the audio version, like I'm subscribed on Apple Podcasts, maybe the audio version gets more, but he doesn't need to be talking about who's an expert and what about anything. Anyway, but I digress.
Yeah, well, that's what I laughed about, because I looked at how many followers he had on Facebook, and yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was like maybe like 6 or 7. I can't remember. It wasn't very much. It wasn't over 1,000, I think. And then I'm sitting here and we're looking at 11,000 on ours.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that I owe him an apology because he's not making money off of his social media.
I don't know if he is or not. And look, the truth is, and I've said it from day one, I'm growing the Outdoor News channel, so it's not like we're getting an insane number of views either, and all that. But I'm just saying that one comment struck me as odd, and then he keeps mentioning corn, so apparently it's getting to him a little bit.
Well, he may not be making money off of his podcast or his YouTube channel and has low volume of people, but he's obviously regarded in some circles as being knowledgeable, and I think he is kind of sharp on some of it. But I think that he has a vested interest monetarily because he works a job that is based on the resource that he gets a paycheck from, as well as the other half, his wife, who we mentioned. Now, interestingly, you know, you've never until this next episode, you've never ever heard him acknowledge publicly about his wife was a big DU person. And in fact, was a DU person that is a part of the grants for all the states by his own admission, making more money off of it. I mean, they're not making money off the grants, but that's her role. I mean, in fact, he says she's busting her ass to get the grants done for multiple states or all these state projects. Kind of raises another question, but keep playing from that point because there's a few more spots right here.
Okay, here we go.
Point here. We had a loyal listener make some really good points. He shot me a message when we stated that waste corn alone could feed the continental duck population 7 times over. The listener noted that not all the corn is in places where ducks will find it. That was the spirit of the comment, at least. For sure. But we didn't split hairs when calculating this kind of corn comment the first time. We basically used all ducks, so that some of them might not even eat corn. So if we restricted to those that eat corn, plus the fact that most of the corn is grown in the upper portions of the central Mississippi Flyway, that corn is still likely feeding a lot of waterfowl many times over, those that actually eat corn many times over. The waste grain in fields alone
Didn't we have a show, dude, where didn't we just do a show where I pointed out almost the exact amount and talked about this exact same thing, but yet we're crazy and no one should listen to us.
That's right. Crackpots from Louisiana. And we did the math and showed that both the waste from rice, the waste from corn was enough to feed the population like over 27 or 37 years or however long it was. Well, apparently, I'm guessing at some point he made a comment and contradicted or to the contrary of what we were saying. And somebody wrote into him, challenging him on, I'm assuming he was contradicting us, saying that what we were saying wasn't. Well, he just had to walk that back and say that, hey, yeah, pretty much waste corn alone could feed the population. He acknowledges it right there.
So if that's the case, why are we leaving it unharvested?
But again, I guess the crackpots are just, because we don't have PhDs, therefore it can't be true. Therefore, if we ain't, biologists, so it must not can be true. Keep rolling, Dano.
All right, here we go.
These ducks that eat corn many times over. Let us work on that equation and tighten it up over the next few weeks. But hey, we like the checks and balances on our work, so thanks for bringing that to
let me get warmed up to eating my crow.
Yeah.
Attention. We've done it to others, so no reason to not ask us the tough questions as well. If we can answer them, we will. If more work is needed to be done, we'll get it done. The comment remains that a lot of corn is already on the landscape, even without flooded corn. All right.
So how far are we from the 9-10 mark?
We are at the 9-9 mark.
Oh, keep going then.
All right.
The same listener said that flooded corn really could hold ducks up because of the carbs involved. Got me a bit, but again, if it gets cold and snows, everything freezes like a block, ducks go south. I just don't think Southern folks completely understand how much it...
Okay.
Didn't we? I'm sorry. I know the human brain forgets a lot of things very quickly. It's just how society is now. Did we or did we not see ducks floating on icebergs down the Mississippi River this past year, and then they flying in and feeding on standard flooded corn that was frozen solid by the thousands, and not just on one location, multiple locations Has everyone forgotten that they saw those videos? It was blowing up TikTok last season. Has everyone
Well,
forgotten about that?
well, when I think he's talking about freezing like a block and they all go south, well, I mean, look, I know he's the biologist, and no matter what he says, he's right, and we're just crackpots from Louisiana crying. But, I mean, look, there's video out there that kind of contradicts that. And Rex, whenever you're ready to pull up this next video, I just want to take a walk down memory lane and show this little video. This was some Habitat Flat stuff in the early days. And lo and behold, what do you got right here? Let hit the play. Let's see what's happening. What's going on here? I see some corn rolling.
Oh, look at those old dogs.
I just want to point out this is not AI. This video is 14 years ago.
Sure looks pros to me, but what's going on here? All right, once we see them jumping up the corn cobs off the ice, they look like a block, as Mike in the Foul Weather podcast says. It says, it.
Oh, there they go. Look. It looks like rats.
Look. What's happening here, Mike? Why are they not going south? Oh, he must be gonna.
Ducks, wear out because of the
That's really hilarious.
Feed on the ice is so powerful because they're not voracious critters.
Another thing, dude.
They're kind of wobbling through.
Okay, you can stop.
Another thing is, we saw the video that was put out by White Oaks, last week, and there was what you had called me, and you was like, dude, this video, they're driving down a levee and the ducks won't even hardly get out from in front of them. There's so many of them. And
they're about to run them all
then
over.
Then we see a video that's put out. I had it sent to me this morning, Habitat Flats, and it's Vandemore. And he's bragging about how many ducks he's holding. He's posting driving through his place with all these ducks jumping up. And he's bragging about it being 83 or 85 degrees. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why in the hell are they in Missouri right now? If it takes it being frozen solid and the weather, is the driver for migration, shouldn't those ducks still be in Canada right now? Because I have buddies up there right now and it's not frozen solid. Like, it's not even close. So why in the hell are they already in Missouri? And we're talking about mallards and gray ducks and spoonbills, because I saw all the different species in the video. I don't know about you, but why are they already there if weather is the driver?
Hey,
Why?
we got a comment. Bert Steinman 449. He says, so you're saying the millions of mallards are in a handful of places and not migrating. Well, Bert Steinman, I don't know if that's your real name or not, but Bert, if you hang in here long enough with us, why don't we let Frank Belrose answer that question for you? In fact, we're going to show that. It'll be as we get through our information, but Frank Belrose will be able to answer that exact question for you. Rex,
I would like to kind of throw an answer.
No, we're not biologists.
Yes,
but Frank Belrose, I want to see if they'll argue with Frank Belrose. But let's go back to the other video, or back to the foul weather at the 8:39 mark.
I was just enjoying seeing the ducks in the frozen corn and then the flooded corn. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
All right. Which
It's pretty cool. I did appreciate that video and the point that the guy was making about the ducks that were downwind of him.
Right.
They wouldn't come near him, but I mean, the ducks that were downwind would come near him. The ducks that were upwind,
right.
I got it backwards. You know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah, he
is
truly
back.
believed. I thought that was good evidence that they were smelling him. Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So you want to go to the 8 or just basically where
839
we're
mark.
839 remaining? Okay.
Yes.
I think that's about
In
right.
those really cold winters. So what ducks are generally subject to is calmer weather to the north and mid latitudes without food shortages, at the same time that southern latitudes seem to have less food and more hunting pressure. Also, even if ducks ran out of food in the north and mid latitudes, why go south? The weather ain't making you do it. So they go east and west up rivers along the freeze and snow line because the only thing they're going to do at the end of this winter period is go back north. So why fly any farther south than needed, as stated previously? It is also simple.
So we can stop. We can stop.
Bro, why yeah, I'm about sick of hearing his voice. But okay, so why did the Ducks ever go any further south before? Okay.
Well,
Why
I mean, it was
if that's the case, because what was it? You were showing me, I think it was you. You were showing me some weather data just recently, and it goes fully against what a lot of these people are saying. And whenever
so
you
Josh.
look at the
What
hottest years
you're
on record, ducks were still migrating.
so what years? Pick a state and pick snowfall or temperature range that you'd like to see, Josh. Which one?
Let's say South Dakota, 1980s.
Okay, Rex, if you'll
How about
share
that?
my screen and let me. All right. So what we have here, I found this website, and there's a lot going on here, but and I'm going to change it around. But this has all of the data that NOAA and NASA all all have collected, that all the reporting, and it's put into this software. And this is the actual real data collected. This isn't the manipulated data. You hear what I'm saying? This is all of the original readings that were taken. So you said South Dakota. Let's go to South Dakota, and bam, there is the temperature range. Let me get over here and do it with a bar chart. So there's your temperature ranges. The maximum temperature ranges from, I'm going to guess this is about 1890 to present day 2025. And if you look at that temperature range, like, so let's use a point in time, say about 1999, I only see one, two, three, um, three dates that we got above this line, whereas before that, one, two, three, four historically. And Rex pointed out something. Trend line shows it's going up, right? But
Mm-hmm.
look at how the trend line changes as now we're from 1914 to 2025. Let's keep going.
Hmm.
What does the trend line show in there, Josh? 1929 to keep increasing.
And looks like it's going downwards.
Yep.
The trend line to me.
Tilt
Now
of it
it's
just a
back
little bit.
level.
So, but you say, you got to have snow cover, right?
Weather but weather goes in cycles. It's
Well,
only the people just like benefiting from the ducks. People that are getting grant money and benefiting from this climate change agenda. I mean, hell, just look at how much money Al Gore made off of global warming. Uh, those people are going to show the negative effects about anything.
So right here, what we're looking at is the snow cover in Rapid City, South Dakota. And from, it says 19 records from 1948 to 2025. And you see there how, I mean, does it look, let's see the trend line. Pretty much flat.
Yeah.
No inconsistency. I mean, it shows it to be flat.
I'm so glad that you found this website because it's so easy. You know, if someone's, especially someone, if they're from a certain area, you can go, okay, let me go see if what you're saying is true. Because I've had a lot of guys tell me that. And then whenever I went and actually pulled their weather data, it was like record colds in that area for that month. And I'm like, why didn't you bring this up? And they don't want to talk about it. But Dr. Mark Merchant pulled up all this NOAA data and got with a meteorologist and went over all this exact same data and was seeing the exact same things that we're showing right here.
So this is North Dakota. And boy, look at that. From 1913 to 2025. 1922. Well, sure, it looks flat for some reason. I just don't, what am I missing here? A little bit of a tilt. It's pretty consistent across the board. That North Dakota, isn't that the American Duck Factory right there? 71 to 2025.
It's part of it.
But you know what people really want to know is probably, and I don't know. I mean, maybe we're going to prove Schumer right here. Let's jump down to 1998, which was the start of the Farm Bill or the amendment to the flooded unharvested ag, because that's when Louisiana started seeing the change in population and, or, you know, in waterfowl in Louisiana. There's September 27th of 98 to 2025. Look at that. Look at that right there. That was North Dakota. So
I'd say that trend line is taking a hard turn downward.
Yeah, that shows an average of it being colder there. So, but you know what? Some people may say, by all means, Rex, I know if you can be the bad guy and be critical of this here, but some people may say, well, you know what? It don't matter there. What matters is Louisiana and or say Missouri or Kansas or something like that. So, tell you what. Wait a minute. Some of our friends from Illinois may be interested in their numbers. So let's go. I'm going to try to do 99 to 2025 on every one of them. Theirs looks like an increase, actually, a little bit. How about that?
Okay, so the numbers off to the left are blurred, dude. Tell me what's the numbers off to the left indicate? Like how much of a rise? I'm actually curious.
Well, you're like point 0.50, I'm guessing.
Yeah, about half a degree average, but that's over the course of 24, 25 years. So let me play devil's advocate here for a minute. So it's an absolute known fact that we're coming off the last ice age. I mean, the Great Lakes, the reason that they're called glacier lakes is they were literally formed when there was a mile thick glacier covering the top 1/3 of the United States. All right. Now, they're only about 15 to 20,000 years old, and we can measure that because we can measure the movement, literal movement of Niagara Falls. The U.S. government started putting a marker in the late 1800s, or maybe it was the early 1900s, for Niagara Falls, because Niagara Falls is getting further and further back towards the Great Lakes. And so they've tracked that movement. It's literally moved. Niagara Falls has moved, I think it's a couple of 100 yards over the last 100 years. And so we can use that to calculate out. My point being that we are in a warming trend. Thus, the climate warming deal is correct. It's just whether it's man-made or not. And I would argue it's not man-made. We're literally coming off the last ice age. And so we are in a moderate warming trend, but that is over thousands and thousands of years. Now, Duke, you were correct to point out that the trend from the late 1990s to now in most of these areas has been a relatively stable level trend over the last 25 years. So you've got to look at this two ways. When people come in with the global warming deal, they're coming at it from man-made global warming, and they want to, make whatever money they can off of that hype. But if you look at it, you've got to remember, when we're talking about climate, we're talking about the climate over a very long period of time, and most of us have no concept of that period of time.
I fully agree with you. But the bad thing is, so many people, let's say, just crying wolf over this because of agendas or whatever. It struck something in people's brains to say, oh my God, doomsday. All right. So automatically, the waterfowl hunters have heard this either on the news or from their cousin or someone at work, a coworker. And so it is on their mind. So whenever they are thinking, well, the ducks aren't migrating anymore. Well, what is the easiest thing for somebody to say to them of why they aren't migrating? But whenever you look at the trends, just like what you were just saying, Rex, whenever you look at them over that time period where the ducks were migrating and they stopped migrating, there's not a change there. Okay.
Right.
It's either stable or it's decreasing. So that's the problem. Whereas these people are doing doomsday 1,000-year talks, okay, we're talking about a migration issue that started 25 years ago. We're bringing this down into a 25-year time limit. Now, that, my friend, the weather has not changed that drastically. Weather goes in cycles.
Yeah.
And we see that.
So the endless thing is that waterfowl hunters are told and have been being told this drumbeat of waterfowl not migrating to Louisiana because of climate change, coastal land loss, and all this has been the thing. It ain't never going to change. Climate change is destroying everything. It ain't never going to change until you get snowfall. You hear it every week in every social media thing. It's an endless drumbeat. We don't get snow cover anymore. Well, here's another chart. This is another random place in Illinois, right here. Does the snow cover look? Hello.
Yeah.
Does the snow cover look inconsistent there at this point where I got my cursor on it or whatever? That's 1997 right there. I mean, so there's been consistent snow cover, I would say, equal to the rest of it over time. But let's not just take Illinois.
Yeah.
Let's go to Missouri. Let's drop on down a little further, and let's go to, how about, let's say, Lamar, Illinois, because that is somewhat proximal.
Lamar, Illinois, or Missouri?
Lamar, Missouri. Looks like we've been getting snow cover right there. I don't know why this trend line thing ain't working right. Maybe I got to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, maybe refresh the screen, but that's a whole other thing. So
Yeah. Um, and this just keeps going on and on. What about temperature there in Lamar? Temperatures seem to be consistent. There's the
yeah,
upper. I mean, does it? I mean, where's
yeah,
the?
it's not like it's a massive increase there. You've got some extremes on the minimum and on the maximum, but they're spread out, and so that's a relatively normal thing. Some years you're going to have hotter years than others for a lot of different reasons, and some years
So,
cooler.
so here's Lexington. I mean, all right. So let's find. How about Truman Dam? Maybe somebody knows where Truman Dam is. I'm not from that area, so I wouldn't know. Oh, the trend line went did work right there. So let's go to 99. There's about 99 to 2025.
Looks dead level. Maybe even down a little.
So
So
let's flip this. Let's look at snow. Oh, I done jinxed myself now. They didn't get no snow in Appleton or Truman. It didn't snow at all there. Let me pick another town, Unionville. They must have had some years. Damn, they didn't get no snow back here around 98 and 99 and 2000. They didn't get any snow around 99. Look at that. Unbelievable.
boy,
That
and
must be why we were getting ducks in
yeah.
99 and 2000 because they didn't have no
And
snow cover then.
before all these people go, you guys can't talk about that. You can't use that because you're not meteorologists or you're not biologists to talk about it. They aren't meteorologists either, dude. These guys are doing the same thing that you're doing right now. They're looking at charts and data and then they base it off of what they're seeing with duck numbers and duck counts. Okay? But they're not meteorologists either. So whenever they go to attacking us and saying we can't do that, yeah, we can. 100%.
Yeah, so I'm showing y'all all of this, and the reason I'm showing you all of this because what we're showing you is not what you hear from the public. It's not what you've heard from our conservation organizations, our duck hunting organizations, that there's not really a whole lot of change. What we're hearing from them is that there's drastic changes, due to climate change. That's the reason why. And Rex, from this point, if you jump up to cut one or go to cut one, this is what got me wound. This was another thing that got me wound up on this, and we can close out that one. So this cut one here, um, that one really got me wound up. So from 19, somebody created this nice chart here, 1940 to 2023. Each circle represents a year and the temperature range compared against each other. Well, clearly it shows up to 2023 that man, we're cooking. It's freaking frying, right? I mean, but yet I just showed you and look, I challenge anybody. I can go show you Louisiana on this other thing. I can go pull up New Orleans and anywhere in the country and show you that there's not these drastic of changes. But I saw this thing, and the drumbeat goes on about the climate stuff nonstop. It's changing, and that's why our ducks and Schumer's saying it ain't never going to come back, and and free until it freezes like a block up there, and what the cold winters are decreasingly uncommon, and but
Dude, I've got, I ain't gonna say their names, but I have two biologists that I'm friends with, and both of which I very much respect. And they both said, man, according to that dude, ducks should have never even been in Louisiana at any point, and then they'll never even come back. And they was like, they said, us as biologists, we think that what he's saying is way off whenever it comes to weather.
So given that, why would biologists like him and countless others, even some from Bismarck, um, you know, all the ones that can name insects that ducks eat, those type people, why are they constantly beating this drumbeat? Because they're so much smarter than us, and they can read all of this crap, but we can't read it. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, is it because they're too busy counting
Because
dollars
90
to care to make sure that what they're saying is
No.
correct?
It's because 98% of the people on this planet, especially the younger generation, is not going to go to that website that you were just looking at, and they're not going to take the time and click on all these places to call them out on their bullshit. It's the same thing we do. How viral did that post on Flyway Federation go where we showed some numbers? Simple numbers on mallard surveys and gabwall surveys in Louisiana. We posted it goes viral. Why?
And
Because
they're losing
no
their
one
crap
goes
over
and
it.
looks at that information. Yeah. And no one goes and looks at that information.
So let's go to the next YouTube video having the thing, Rex, and
All right.
go to or
That's
just start playing it right out of the gate. Yeah,
is that
where your
the
cursor is.
glacier? Yeah, the glacier is melting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Hold on just a second. Let me get, I don't know if I can push the right screen. There we go. Okay, that one.
Yes.
All right, ready to play
And I
it?
think you got to go back. What time stamp are you on right there?
7:57 mark.
Ooh. Okay. Go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay,
3:30 mark.
the 3:30 mark or the beginning?
3:30 in the beginning. Yeah, we do these going forward backwards. I know we'll have to fix that in the future.
This one?
Just go to the beginning of the video and hit play.
Okay.
Graphs like this one from the NASA website. The graph shows different temperature series from 5 different organizations around the world. It shows that they're all fairly similar. All of them show fairly steady warming since about 1910. The idea behind this graph is that there's been a lot of warming over the last 110 years, and that all of the people studying it are in close agreement about that. This graph looks like pretty compelling evidence for global warming, particularly since about 1970. Well, let's take a closer look at the data now and see how valid these graphs really are. These graphs purport to show temperatures over the entire planet, including the land and the ocean. But until about 15 years ago, no one even attempted to plot ocean data prior to 1950, because there just isn't much data available prior to that time. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the land-only temperature data, which is much more extensive. This is the current NASA land-only temperature graph from the year 1880 to the year 2000. It shows a fairly steady warming of about 1 degree. But if we look at the same NASA temperature graph from 15 years ago, we see something very different. In the year 2000, NASA showed less than half a degree warming prior to the year 2000, and now they show a full degree warming. I'm going to flip back and forth a few times between the 2000 version and the 2017 version. 2000, 2017, 2000, 2017. You can see that they've altered the data quite a bit over the last 17 years, and that they've doubled the amount of warming present in their graphs. So we can see that NASA temperature graphs don't even agree with older NASA temperature graphs. Now let's look at how much NASA has changed the data since the year 2000. This graph shows the difference between the current NASA temperature graph and the one from the year 2000. You can see that they've cooled the past by quite a bit, almost half a degree, and then they've steadily warmed the present by about 0.2 degrees. So this changes the data quite a bit and increases the amount of warming going on just by altering the data. When you see large changes to the data like this, which very conveniently enhance their global warming theory, you should probably get a little bit suspicious. And perhaps even be more suspicious about the close agreement between these 5 different
Stop at the
graphs,
3:30
given that
mark.
NASA doesn't
All
even
right.
agree with NASA from 15 years ago. Now let's go back a little bit further and compare NASA's current land-only temperature graph with the one from the National Center for Atmospheric Research in 1974. The NCAR graphs show that all of the warming which occurred from 1870 to 1940 was lost between 1940 and 1970. But the NASA graph shows nothing of the sort. It shows fairly steady warming from 1880 to 1970. They don't show any of this cooling from 1940 to 1970. So let's look a little closer at this now and see which one of the two graphs was correct. Did this post-1940 cooling, which NASA has erased, actually exist? Well, there's very
All right, so I'm gonna stop right there. And of course, I was born in '71, but I have seen the magazine covers and all that. If you don't remember, late '60s and early '70s, we were gonna be in the next ice age shortly, and
Oh yeah.
that's been made fun of a lot.
Well, this guy goes on. He's showing clips, newspaper from every periodical around the world during the time frames of how, like our U.S. military, the subs, like up in the Arctic, they were having difficulty with the subs breaking through the ice. And Russia reported this too, and Russian stuff, that the ice was becoming thicker. Everything was getting thicker. They couldn't break through it. But yet somehow we're to believe that it's been the total opposite. And interestingly, he's pointing out around 2000 is when everything started changing. And he goes into this guy, Tony Heller, came out with this report. It was earlier in the first of this year. Now, this guy, I mean, I think he was like an astrophysics guy. He worked for NASA and he did this stuff, and he's no longer there anymore. And he left and he started really digging into doing all of this stuff. And that platform that I was showing y'all, the he's figured it out where you could check the temperatures. He went and put all of the inputs on all the original data that was collected, the temperatures that were actually collected, and put it all to where it's all searchable and you can utilize it. And when I say the old data, I mean the data that hasn't been changed or modified by NOAA and NASA, because and he shows how they went in and changed it, and there's reports of the reasons they went in and changed it. And one, Rex, we were talking about earlier, and one of the things is to compensate for using glass thermometers versus digital thermometers today, to compensate for urban, like a major city heat thing. They're going in and adjusting numbers all over because supposedly there's some number pertaining to the heat from the cities or what have you. But the interesting thing is you go on that website to search where historically all these temperature were, like in Illinois. Why would Chicago not have been in the list searchable for temperatures? It was not a part of the list. The reason was that they went outside to areas that were rural. They didn't put them in population centers. Even way back then, they were smart enough to know not to do that. But now all of a sudden into the future, all these guys are amending numbers because of factors like that. And guess what? Just so happens that all those factor changes benefit the narrative of climate change. The same stuff
Kind of
that
like the same stuff with duck numbers.
the same stuff
Exact
we've
same
been
thing.
being fed for the last 25 years, that it's climate change, climate change, climate change. Go to the 1645 mark and we'll play one more clip of this guy, and I highly recommend people go check him out. Tony Heller. He's on YouTube.
1999, NASA's James Hansen, the guy who scared the country with the global warming scare in 1988, testifying before Congress, was very concerned about the fact the U.S. temperatures were cooling since the 1930s, which didn't match what he said the global temperatures were. So he decided to do something about it. He simply altered the U.S. temperature data. This animation flashes back and forth between the NASA 1999 U.S. temperature graph and the current one. You can see that in 1999 the U.S. cooled from the 1930s through the end of the 20th century, but they've since altered the graph to create warming during that period. 1999 cooling, 2017 warming, cooling, warming, cooling, warming. The data has been altered massively. And one thing which very few people remember is how much hotter the U.S. used to be in the summer than it is now. This graph shows the frequency of 95-degree days during the summer at all United States Historical Climatology Network stations. That's 1,218 stations scattered around the United States. You can see the 1930s were much hotter. In 1936, 34% of summer days were over 95 degrees. Now we typically have less than 15%. You can see that the frequency of hot days has plummeted in the United States over the last century.
So I want to pause that for a second because my good friend, longtime friend, John Brown Jr., who also was co-founder of the Outdoor News back in the 90s, he said, and it's a long quote, but one, as a child growing up in Richland Parish, it was common to try and bust the hard ice off mud puddles while waiting for the school bus. Not sure about you, but I stopped seeing frozen over mud puddles more than a few days each year quite a long time ago. And so there is some truth to that. I would say that some of that is anecdotal. The math and the actual temperatures don't lie, and there's some discrepancy over that. I would also like to point out that while there have been some very hot days, I know, just in Louisiana over the past 5 to 10 years, I would also remind everybody that since the 60s and 70s, air conditioning has become much more prevalent in vehicles and in homes, central air conditioning, and our bodies have become acclimated to that. So we have to be careful with the anecdotal evidence where we think it might be getting hotter. It's because we're used to the air conditioning, and our bodies are
You know,
becoming
I
more
don't,
used to it.
I don't, I've spent a little bit of time in North Louisiana, you know, but I will say this: I would urge anyone to reach out to Dovey Berg and ask him how many times in his lifetime he's busted ice and hunted in snow in the Barretts area of southeast Louisiana, and see what year he tells you that happened. I
Yeah.
don't think it ever happened in his life up until last year, ever. So
Well,
there's that. And then it snowed whenever I was a kid in DeRidder, Louisiana, and I'm just above Calcasieu Parish. It snowed, I think, twice. We have pictures in all our photo albums, but yet since I've been had my own house, I can show you 5 years of snow with my own kids, but my parents only had 2 years of snow. Is that because cameras weren't invented whenever I was a kid or something? My mom just said, "Screw it, I'm not going to take pictures." No, it's snowed more here recently than in the past.
yeah, but the argument to that is as well, Josh. It's birds migrating to Louisiana is not about you getting snow cover there. We need snow cover and cold weather up north to freeze it all up. In which we just showed
100%.
obvious, obviously that didn't matter before 1999. Because it for the most part has been static across every one of these states. And look, even the true biologists, I encourage y'all to go to that website, visitech.ai, and you can look up any state, city, town, whatever you like, and look it all up yourself. And what Mr. Heller put in there is the actual numbers that were recorded, not the numbers that have been changed by NASA and NOAA, which started ironically about 1999. And my point is what happened in 99 was when we started seeing our decrease in waterfowl migrating to Louisiana. And we have been being told for the past 25 years that it's climate change and habitat loss, climate change and habitat loss. And now we've got, hybridization. That's the new twist on it. And then these biologists want to say, y'all just need to trust us. You just need to sit down, shut up, and trust us, and just wear your tinfoil hat with pride. No, we're not sitting down and shutting up anymore. I mean, we're asking questions. And look, I appreciate if people don't believe us, but don't believe me. Don't believe Josh. You look at the data and read it yourself and believe it. And these biologists that say just don't look at it, just believe what we're telling you, that's the last people you need to be listening to. So I think from here, Rex, we need to go to episode 101.
I'm thankful that a lot of people are finally, because the other day I was watching a debate on somebody else's page, and I think I screenshot it and sent it to you, Duke. It was from a graph that Dr. Mark Merchant had put together for the original town hall video, and someone had screenshot that off of YouTube and used it in their fight. And I didn't even know this guy. He was from like North Carolina or somewhere, and he was using it in the debate. And I was like, hey, man, I like your graph. And he just smiled and threw a thumbs up. But people are finally catching on and looking at this information for themselves and realizing a lot of the stuff that these people have shoved down their throat and told them is not adding up. None of it.
Yeah, so are we ready, Rex, to go to episode 101?
Yeah, so let's see. Is that going to be, let me scroll down through the notes real quick. Is that going to be episode 101 of
1308?
Yeah, let's see. Mark.
Or if you still got the other one up, there was 801 left. There was a talking point there, but we can move past that. Basically, one of the last points that he was making in that episode was he was talking about ducks like corn. It's legal and part of the capitalist system. Interesting. He talks about flooding unharvested ag for the purpose of harvesting ducks, and it's capitalist to do it. I know Rex likes the capitalist pig ideology, but he's acknowledging that it's about money. Thank you, Mike Schumer.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's see. Let me share the screen out. All right, episode 101, although you might not can see it real well. Let me see if I can adjust that a little bit. Not that that matters. And it ain't playing nicely, so we'll just leave it at that. All right, let's see. First time stamp that we need to go to is a 1308, Mark. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right, let's see.
And Mike, be glad we're listening to your content.
Plus, all stay together. That's not true for these Canada geese. So they are temperate nesting zone, climate-wise, Canada geese. All right. So they regularly renest, right?
1308
geese
left.
Even stay together as a fan podcast, analyze these data to provide a more informed picture of themselves. Shut your idea that I lie about these folks or 25 with clients up north. But if our northern friends have a property in need of some love, contact me at drmike@foulweather.co for a summer 2026 site visit. Okay.
What does he charge for those site
hate
visits?
mail. Gotta love it, right? Now, is it really hate mail? It's probably not, but it isn't a reasonable discussion, that's for sure. So these are kind of off-the-wall comments we got. First up, I'm supposedly a liar because I once noted that nut job organizations from Louisiana that are pushing a dumb anti-flooded corn agenda were started back in like 2005 to 2008. I guess that's not true, but the point of the conversation I had on another podcast where I was guest was that the same kind of nut job conspiracy theory stuff came up back when the mallard population was low last time, and that conspiracy crap came from Louisiana. I remember trying to post something from these folks, or maybe some group like them, on the Al Afton listserv back around 2006 or so. And if you're not familiar with this listserv, it goes out to waterfowl professionals across the globe. It's run by Dr. Al Afton, who at that time, back in 2006, was working at LSU as a professor. Al basically stated, I'll post lots of stuff, but I ain't posting anything from these guys. Not now, not ever. And I'm not sure if the folks now are the same people, just under a different name. Heck, I didn't even know they existed again, but seems that the wackos are at it again. I mean, they have like zero traction because it's all fake news, but guess when the craziness started back up again? Just when the mallards are at the bottom of their population cycle. Yeah. So don't be fooled that banning flooded corn is going to do anything to change the migration, because it ain't. And from a legal standpoint, flooded corn ain't going anywhere. It never will.
Almost.
So I do apologize for getting the organization date of that nut job group from Louisiana wrong, but it wasn't a lie. It was a mistake. The idea that I lie about everything because I got one date wrong is absurd.
There you
go. Okay, where to start? Josh, are you the nut job of this group?
I would say that he didn't receive a piece of email or hate mail. I would say that he just watched our podcast and got really pissed off, because if you keep listening to the next whole portion, he basically goes on a rampage against what we talked about.
Well, in the spirit of education, I want to educate him a little bit, because yeah, you were wrong, Mr. Schumer, and but I don't know that. I mean, you would think if you're going to talk about this subject, in fact, you said earlier that somebody should take the time, and it may be here in just a minute, you should at least take the time to study something before you're going to talk about it. And if you were going to be on a secret chat with all the duck managers that's not going to share alternative views, that doesn't sound like science at all to me. Because the organizations that probably he was talking about may have been the Louisiana Waterfowl Alliance, in which, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Louisiana Waterfowl Alliance predated Flyway Federation, and there were some pretty sharp cats involved with the LWA movement back in the day.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is I didn't know anything about it, because those guys they weren't big time. Social media wasn't a huge thing back then, and the head guys, apparently, from what I hear from a lot of the older gentlemen that were involved with it, they weren't big savvy people on computers, but they had files and files and files of information, from what I've been told.
That's right, they did, and we held our meetings at the Wetland Center in Lafayette. And Mr. Schumer may not want to say this, but how would Mr. Schumer know about that group and those meetings? I mean, it would have had to have been somebody involved in that. I mean, because I don't think we really have went into it on our podcast or this show about that organization and that timeline. But the group and all those waterfowl professionals down there is the way I'll describe them. I was fortunate to be around them and be a part of one of the founding members of the LWA. Somebody became the new waterfowl coordinator for the state of Louisiana and was invited to come to those groups. Who might that have been, Josh?
Larry Lies-a-Lot Reynolds.
Oh, so now Mike and Larry are both liars. Well, what is the relationship with Mike, Dr. Duck Schumer, and Larry Reynolds? How do they have any path or nothing? How do they know each other? What's the relationship there? Because Larry Reynolds would come to the
Well,
LWA meetings, and Larry Reynolds did not think highly of the LWA, and in fact, he didn't say that at our meetings, but he fought us all the time. So
Schumer, I've heard him on numerous podcasts say that Larry Reynolds was a mentor to him, and he did studies with Larry Reynolds, such as the scalp. I think it was the scalp study. But it's so funny that all these people, I'm not going to say all of them because it's not a huge number, but the group of individuals who attack this subject like it's freaking the next atomic bomb going to go off, they're all intertwined somehow. They all are in this one little group, every one of them. I mean, I just pulled up a study from that one guy that did that Mississippi State article, Duke, and I sent it to you earlier. And if you'll remember, Duke, we talked about on a previous podcast, we talked about Ed Penny with DU. Remember that? How I
yep,
had received a phone call from him. So the same guy who does this write up for Mississippi State, this James Calicut or whatever. Okay. So I go and look up what studies he was involved in, and it showed a study whenever he was in college. He was a student researcher or whatever, shows this study, and the people who led the study was none other than Ed Penny, Mike Schumer, and there was like two others. Hagee was on there, and one, but yet James Calicut was their student researcher. And then you go and you see studies by Larry Reynolds, and Schumer is underneath Larry. And it's this same freaking group of guys that go out of their way to try to say that everyone's lying and all this stuff is wrong, but yet they never bring the facts to the party, ever. But they'll
well,
be
well,
quick to say, you're wrong.
yeah. So he was talking. When he was talking about LWA, and he was assuming that he was talking about Flyway Federation, which are two distinct groups. Nobody from the LWA organization had any affiliation with the Flyway Federation. The Mike, for your information, the closest crackpot to have an affiliation with both organizations is me, to which I'm still not a member nor ever have been a member of Flyway Federation. But I was a member, one of the founding members of LWA. And we were the first group down there to start kind of seeing there were problems and there were things happening in Louisiana. I mean, does that make us a crackpot? And even going so far as to predicting that our decline was going to continue back then? Yeah, Larry Reynolds and a lot of your type people can count the number of bugs a duck eats. Yeah, y'all were dismissive of us then when it was coming. In fact, I wrote an article
You know,
early 2000 citing exactly that the decline would continue. And guess what? 25 years later, it has crashed. Where were you? Where were you and all of your biologist ilk doing something to stop it? You haven't done anything. In fact, it's gotten worse. And now people like us are calling it out, and you're saying we're all a bunch of crackpots. I mean,
yeah, but
go ahead, Josh.
do you know another organization that was basically attacked whenever they first came out? Matter of fact, I think that you're wearing a shirt because you showed it to me before the show. You're wearing a shirt of one of the original shirts for that organization. And if I'm not mistaken, Larry Reynolds was not happy whenever Delta Waterfowl showed up to Louisiana and did not want that money half of that money going to Delta Waterfowl. It was supposed to
That
all go to DU, and the status quo never changed. And Delta got like, they can say that they weren't controversial trying to fix things and say that they were going to fix things, but they damn sure were, because you got the shirt to prove it. And I can remember all those times,
yeah.
whenever I
And
heard about what they were doing.
well, there was another podcast recently where someone who was around during that time said that, well, they just, that their reasoning to getting involved with Delta and taking action was just, because they just wanted to, it wasn't nothing controversial and all that, right? Well, let me show you my shirt here. I don't know if you can make it bigger, Rex, but I want you to
Let's
look at
see.
the back of my shirt. Am I in focus?
Yes. Let me see if I can get it adjusted a little bit. There we go. Delta waterfowl with the mushrooms.
Yeah, but what's around the mushroom?
Oh, well, the big circle with the slash through it.
Yeah, the Ghostbuster thing. So
Yes.
what does that stand for? You guys are smart guys. What is mushrooms with a circle through it? What do we got against mushrooms?
They grow
Okay.
in the dark.
You got to keep them in the dark. And what do they grow on?
Typically
I
manure.
think shit.
Keep them in the dark and feed them shit. That was the origination of Delta in Louisiana, and it was controversial. You didn't come to Delta to
And
not
who
be controversial.
and who was the state? Yeah, Delta had a research station up north. Who was the leading state that put Delta on the map? Matter of fact, your chapter was the biggest fundraiser out of all of them for a long time. And I think that Gulf Coast chapter is still one of the largest.
Yeah, it was
Prior to all that other stuff.
highest net gross attendance membership of all chapters in the history of Delta at that point when I was affiliated with that. In fact, well, I don't want to keep beating that dead horse because we got some more stuff to go through here. But the point is if you're going to do, just look in the mirror, Mr. Schumer. You said that people need to do their homework and study a little bit. Well, you're just mad because we are studying, and you're just mad because we are putting data out here that you would rather us just pat us on the head, sit down and shut up. Well, you know what? Them days are gone. We're not doing that. And if you're going to put data out there and you're going to say that you're super biologist, the duck doctor, you damn well better be right. So, question for you, Mr. Schumer. Play 920 minus 928, Rex.
Right.
Why did you not disclose this before now? If everything's
Fake
transparent,
news.
why was this not disclosed?
Clear up episodes of the Follow Weather podcast. Follow the money. You must be getting paid a hell of a lot to say the things you are saying because you are the one spreading fake news. So much fun. They even attacked me because my wife works for DU, and DU is the evil empire. I can't laugh enough at all of this. First of all, my wife kicks ass, so don't attack anything about her career with DU. She also hunts ducks, geese, deer, and turkeys. We fill the freezer together. We travel together to hunt, and she works her ass off for DU. Yeah. If you haven't noticed, Ducks Unlimited has done a lot of good for the ducks, and she knows it. That's why I regularly work until 6 to 7 p.m. at night, because she's still not back from the office because a grant deadline needed to be met to ensure delivery of wetland restoration projects on state land to improve duck habitat for public hunting.
Okay.
There is
wait a minute. Stop. So she's busy doing the grant writing. Great. Somebody's got to do it. It's her. But why until now, till we point it out, every time somebody disagrees and argues with our contention, they have an interest in the resource, and we're just pointing it out. And earlier he was talking about the CRP. That it got robbed and started going to other places. I mean, but somebody who's been in the driver's seat of dispersing money, grant writing, and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that would have been important for him to say before then. Why did he not do it? The only reason he ever did it was because we pointed it out and we brought it out. Right?
And not only that, he's acting like he's still not benefiting from the resource. He is supposedly a waterfowl teacher or whatever, and he also goes and designs habitat on the side. I think he even stated on his podcast. He's booked out for like a year or two, okay, of going and designing people's habitats and building them corn pond structures. All right. Then his wife works for Ducks. We weren't being mean about his wife. We're stating the facts that they are benefiting off we're not saying that he owns a duck club. We're saying that they have some type of gain from this resource. Okay.
Yeah,
and they're supposed to be the knowledgeable ones.
So all these people that argue against it, like I said at the start, invariably you can go and start doing research on these people and you can find that they're making money. I remember a guy out of Arkansas. He was arguing, and I thought his arguments were pretty good. He made some good points, but come to find out, he had a shot shell company. He was trying to sell shotgun shells or some big thing like that. Other people were in the real estate and developing habitat to sell. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars. Then you got all the rest of the guide services that are wanting you to come to this state or that state and come up there. It's the monetization of the resource. And what Mr. Schumer is advocating for is a continuation of the monetization of the resource. And it makes me mad, of the hypocrisy. He's criticizing us. The people who don't make money off of it are being criticized. And he's saying we're attacking him. It's not an attack to point out that you have an interest, a monetary interest in the way things go one way or the other. If Ducks Unlimited shut down tomorrow, I'm not going to lose a job. I'm not going to lose my income. I wouldn't have to go learn to code. You know what? Schumer House would have to learn too. I mean, am I off base, Rex? You're. Well, does that sound reasonable, or am I being unreasonable?
No, like you said earlier, I'm Mr. Capitalistic Pig, and so I'm fine with anybody making income, whether it's from guided duck hunts or whether it's, this guy's wife works for DU or whether he's a biologist or whatever. Look, I'm fine with everybody making all the money they want to make relatively ethically, but it should be disclosed.
That's right. So 100%. play this next little part. Keep playing because he's fixing to say something that's pretty despicable.
Weird conspiracy.
Go ahead.
But you know what? I guess he can say that because us being critical of, making money off the resource, that's fine. But he's got no basis to say it off of us, except to try to continue a lie that was propagated against Flyway Federation to stop it. And it was all done by people that were associated in this circle of people. Go ahead.
Conspiracy whereby somehow we are getting paid anything. And here's the deal. The person usually coming up with wacko conspiracy stuff like that is probably the type of person that would take a bribe themselves. And they don't exist. Heck, we haven't even had time to run a ton of sponsors for the podcast like other folks have. We are basically running on a shoestring budget. So don't think that anyone is getting rich over reporting the facts on the Foul Weather podcast. We are spending our time working to get the script correct. We are doing our homework. But please look to the others that are spewing misinformation, not doing their homework, having to react to comments on later episodes about stuff like reward bans, and look at the number of ads they're putting out. Maybe they should start turning the finger towards themselves and spending less time getting sponsors and more time getting the information right.
All right, hold on. Have you been running any ads that I don't know about?
I'm speechless. I was going to ask you, Rex, all the damn ads you're running. What's he talking about?
Well, there have been no ads run on the outdoor news.
Did you take a bribe, Rex? I mean, you're looking like
No.
bribe material. You just talking about all capitalism, and bribes are a part of capitalism. So,
Well,
I'm
I
just,
am a
I'm
capitalistic pig. I believe in capitalism, but bribe? I mean, who's going to bribe me? What, are you going to bribe me? Josh going to bribe me? Who's going to bribe me? And look,
but that
I'll
don't
go
know.
one step further. Here is the full disclosure. So right now, the outdoor news is monetized on YouTube as of a week and a half ago, but honestly, not because of the show. We've been monetized on Facebook, and I make enough on there to buy a couple of coffee mugs, maybe. And now, is my goal to completely monetize and make money on YouTube? Yes, but I'm not making any money because of talking about ducks and corn. That's not happening.
so
And
okay.
dude,
I,
I think that we were invited onto the outdoor news because Rex is a good friend, and we're just utilizing a channel that was already set up in which he gets viewership because we have followers. And my name isn't. I'm not an owner of the outdoor news, and Duke, you aren't either. We're on here just talking crap, getting the facts out there, and we're
but
we're having a
somehow,
lot of fun doing it.
so we're bribe taking whack jobs from Louisiana. So whatever. Thank you, Mike. I'll take that as a compliment from you. So,
I'm glad we got his panties in a wad. All right. Shall we continue
oh
on
yeah,
listening to this drivel?
6:31. Roll with it.
All
I'm
right.
We're almost done. Hang in there.
Third harvest corrected
Yeah,
for
I can't
effort or
make it that much
corrected for
longer.
hunter days. Okay. So you just maybe we should stop there, but
Here we go.
this is consistent. Folks point to data, but when we at the Foul Weather Podcast analyze these data to provide a more informed picture of what has happened with harvest, now it's wrong because it doesn't conform. This is how crazy liberals act, right? This isn't
liberals
how
now.
people with their heads screwed on straight act.
Liberal
Crazy
whack
liberals
job.
come up with
Liberal
preconceived notion of how the world works and then go look for information to back that up. We don't do that. We also don't make statistics show anything. Data are data. We are just interpreting them. That term
Okay.
that you
Yeah, I gotta stop listening to this guy.
Hang on, pause that. Yeah, I'm about sick of listening to him. But I will say this. So did he or did he not? You didn't even know that it was him, but he came on debating with you and said, well, Louisiana still harvests way more birds than everyone else. And you was like, hey, dude, Louisiana's lost roughly 90,000 duck hunters. So show me your data. And it went silence. He disappeared.
He disappeared.
Not to come back in.
And I had no idea who he was, Rex.
So
I had no idea.
So who's bringing data to the party?
Well, look,
Like that's what.
well, let me interject this too. So he's welcome to come on the show. He's welcome to join in the comments live.
Yeah, but he likes being able to cut and edit too much, man. A lot of the people out there aren't going to want to come on to this live.
Well, yeah, that is the one thing. It's live, no takebacks.
You might have to turn my headphones down because that voice gets on my nerves. But
I don't know that there's another duck. I don't know that there's another duck show that does live. I think all the other ones they pre-record, cut, paste, edit, and fix everything so that they're perfect, but they're not perfect. I mean, I hope they keep doing it the way they're doing it. But I would welcome them to go live. So I got another link. He was
Speaking of other podcasts and him just calling us liberals, did you hear that podcast I sent you where we were called socialists this past
oh,
week?
we're liberals, socialists, and whack jobs. How about
Wow.
that?
Yeah, because we want a resource. We want to take a resource from another state. Does that sound familiar, dude?
But it's
That was
okay for them
exactly
to
what we
take it
said.
from our state?
That's right. That's right.
100%. That's what I said too.
Hmm.
But yet we're socialists because we're pointing out that the ducks were stolen from the ancestral wintering grounds. I don't get it.
So speaking of on this link here, he was saying, you know, that you need the data, you know, and you need to check the data and do homework and all that stuff. Well, remember us talking about climate change? I mean, Mike, y'all been running this climate change out. Well, this article right here is the one talking about all of the data and the get pulled up here where I can, and the new way of doing the temperature stuff and why they did it and all of the updates. And right at the very beginning, it goes on to say that says, for years, climate scientists have assured us that NOAA's homogenized temperature data sets, particularly the Global Historical Climatology Network, are the gold standard for tracking global warming. But what if the corrections applied to these data sets are introducing more noise than signal? A recent study published in Atmosphere has uncovered shocking inconsistencies in NOAA's adjustments, raising serious concerns about the reliability of homogenized temperature records. This was published February of this year, 2025. They found that the adjustments in the temperatures that NOAA was making, the same temperature records were being adjusted differently on different days. 64% of the breakpoints identified by NOAA's pairwise homogeneous algorithm were highly inconsistent, appearing in less than 25% of NOAA's data sets. 16% of the adjustments were consistently applied in more than 75% of the cases, meaning the majority of the corrections are shifting unpredictably. Less than 20% of NOAA's breakpoints corresponded to actual documented station changes, suggesting that many adjustments were made without supporting metadata. So they're just going in and changing it, which makes the earlier stuff that I showed that much more important because it was the without adjustment from NOAA, especially since these other scientists have went in and found that these folks have been adjusting data and it's not even consistent. It's inconsistent. The only thing consistent are the actual numbers that were recorded. So
imagine that. The actual numbers recorded.
Yeah. So enough of Schumer. I've tortured y'all enough out there, but let's go to and start wrapping this up. You know, Frank Belrose. Frank Belrose was like Johnny Lynch. You know, he was one of the pioneers, I guess you could say. You know, in his era, right there with the time of Ding Darling and Aldo Leopold and all that. He did a lot of pioneering type stuff. I mean, I think he was a little after that. He was probably a younger man during their time. But the reason that I bring him up, you know, we featured at the end of our show last time about Johnny Lynch, and we talked a lot about him. But this week, Frank Belrose and his contributions, you know, and the new modern waterfowl biologists. To me, it's like they all want to just piss on the old waterfowl guys, and I think that's a big mistake. I think that's where we have lost because these guys, they want the credibility to come from those old guys, but they don't want to follow in their footsteps and cut forward came across this cut for Belrose Labs when I was doing a little bit of my studying, right? And Josh, you as well. You pointed this out and sent me to it. But this was in September of 2009. And Rex, what does that say? Belrose Lab.
Yeah, let's see. It says Team Duck at the Belrose Lab. Looks like that sign on the building back there says Frank C. Belrose.
Yeah, and
Yep.
Josh, what is all these folks here? What's going on here? What's this about?
I guess they was doing some research, but that James Callicut that wrote that article in Mississippi State, the guy in the front right there with the black shirt to the left, that's him. For sure, that's him.
So looks like he was a student with or for Mr. Schumer, and so these are the new era of biologists. Mr. Schumer ushering them along, apparently, and now we're shifting from climate change to hybridization. Okay, but back to Frank Belrose. They're camped out at Belrose Lab here, and obviously during that time using a legacy to propagate whatever it is you want to call them propagating. And we'll go to the next link I've got in the notes, Rex. And we found this old report of Frank Belrose talking about some of the work that he was doing, and I don't know if I can pronounce this place, Chautauqua. Is that right?
Chautauqua.
Chautauqua?
I guess. That'd be my guess. I used to live on Chautauqua. Or near... Anyway. I'm not really sure. All right, so this is going to be a PDF, right?
Yeah.
Okay, give me just a second here, and I'll bring it in. All right,
and
coming.
And so I'm pointing out in this that, maybe, I mean, us whack jobs in Louisiana may be onto something. Maybe even some of the observations that we have had and other people have had are the same observations that Mr. Belrose had. See if I can get it pulled up on my side too. And go back up to this. It'll be about the 8th page in the PDF, and it'll have page 2 in the upper right hand corner.
Yeah, I'm on it.
I'm going to get to it to where I can read it. So this was a surveying and his notes of this one particular refuge up there. Back during this time, it was around 1945, 1944. And he writes on migratory birds, population and behavior, A, waterfowl. This having been the observer's first year in the area, we use the peak figures of the 44 narrative report as a basis for estimating comparisons with the peak concentrations of this year. We checked with Mr. Belrose of the Illinois Natural History Survey as well as reliable natives of the area to verify these totals. Having heard of the large concentration of birds in this vicinity during the past, we were greatly concerned with the exceptionally small figures for this year. Mr. Belrose estimates that the Illinois Valley as a whole had 1/3 the number of birds that have come through the past several years. The natives, who should know waterfowl conditions, are mostly agreed with Mr. Belrose. Migration periods were relatively the same as last year, with perhaps a little later trend. It appears that no great amount of migration took place in which the birds went right through, as we watch closely for this, as well as making many inquiries along the line. Other reasons we feel the birds did not pass us up are 1, the waters here were all open, and 2, the harvesting of the corn was not in full swing, with a lot of the farmers still shucking until December 10th. Did they not have flooded corn up there?
Keep reading, dude.
The peak concentration occurred around November 14th, with the birds staying in the area very well. The refuge and the neighboring lakes did not freeze over and stay that way until December 9th and 10th, after which we noticed a scarcity of birds with a census estimate of 16,000 birds using the refuge and adjacent Quiver Creek. So jump forward to the next page, Rex, where you'll
All right.
see some totals and highlight at the top. And the year that he was talking about is right up there, the very first line. In 1944, on this one particular refuge, waterfowl in general, 1,537,812. And then in 1945, it dropped to 425,564. So they 44, they wasn't able to get their corn out. They were still harvesting in December. The birds stayed. But once they got the corn out, the numbers dropped in 45.
Yeah, I found that really interesting.
So,
And
there's
a lot
some.
of these people ride the back of Belrose and say, "Oh, it was all his idea to start all this habitat management like this and moist soil." No, moist soil management and producing the best natural seed sources for great health for the North American waterfowl during migration was Belrose's plan. If you read any of his information, he looked at agricultural crops as a threat to the health and migration of the North American waterfowl.
Well, it just so happens I went and got some of those quotes and some of his thoughts and machinations, I guess you could say, about the subject. Go to the next link, Rex.
All right.
And in 2008, and Josh, you sent me this one, and this is a pretty good one, and it highlights his contributions to, more like what you were saying, more soil plants and the such. And right here on the first page, drop down, and I'm going to read a paragraph here. During the decades since Belrose's initial research, waterfowl scientists and managers have determined that moist soil plant seeds may be particularly valuable foods to waterfowl because they are relatively high in energy and contain essential nutrients and amino acids not found in row crops such as corn. Further, third study has determined that although moist soil plants may occur naturally, their growth can be encouraged by manipulating water levels, seed banks, or other vegetation. So they were pointing out, from his work, the importance of all of the moist soil and it actually being more important because there were things that a duck can't get from corn that he will get from the other. And Josh, isn't it accurate that in this particular one somewhere it talks about how the row crops and the negative effects on waterfowl?
Yes. It was.
So
I had sent you a few of them. It's either
I
this one or
found
another one, but we'll
I
share
found
them.
it. Go on the last page, Rex, top of the last page, row crops versus natural vegetation. And in here, this quote is saying further, crop foods are high in energy, but lack important nutrients found in moist soil plant seeds. In fact, research indicates that ducks fed only corn or soybeans will actually lose weight over a period of weeks. Farmers typically consider moist soil plants as weeds that compete with row crops. So, talking about if they're feeding strictly on the corn and the soybeans, that they're actually going to lose weight. So, what Frank Belrose was doing was he captured countless numbers of waterfowl and they were cutting their gizzards open and was making determinations on, what percentage of food that they were consuming and what they were eating. And so basically what was determined is that if their diet was over so much of a percent on the corn or what have you, that it was going to have detrimental effects. And we can go to the next. So he was Frank Belrose was I don't know, you may not. I'll just read these if you want me to. Frank Belrose's contributions went on. He wrote a lot of different things in different books, and by all means, Mike, Dr. Duck, or whatever you want to call yourself, if y'all want to go correct me and say that none of this is true, by all means, go get the book and read it. I mean, you said you're going to go source stuff. The Mississippi Flyway Odyssey of the Birds, 1980. You know, Frank Belrose had that was his book, contributions that he made, and he went into real detail on all of the data that he collected and corn and its role. And it lists or says that he had like 15,000 gizzards between somewhere in the 1920s and 70s. He had been a part of cutting open over 15,000 gizzards. Can you imagine that? And as you said, Josh, he viewed corn as a double-edged sword. You know, it did have an energy boon, yeah, but he also described ecological cautions about nutritional imbalances, and that the fact that it would create habitat dependency and population vulnerabilities. He
Kind of like he
went.
was predicting the future, huh?
It's kind of like he was predicting the future, and by all means, in chapter 2, food habits. I went and looked this up. You said do your homework there, Mikey. Did the homework. Chapter 2, page 42 to 50. You know, talking about the over reliance could destabilize populations. He quote, excessive corn intake displaces protein rich invertebrates, leading to reduced egg production and chick growth. Gee, Josh, I mean, if we've got if we've converted the primary diet of a lot of waterfowl to corn, I think what he's saying here is that could reduce egg production and growth in the prairies but you got them closer so they can go up there to produce eggs for the eggs to not hatch sooner or less eggs.
I think
He
that
goes,
we've talked about that on previous shows, dude.
we have. I mean, Mr. Belrose determined that corn gave ducks 8% protein versus snails and insects that, you know, I don't know the bunch of names of all the insects and bugs that Mr. Schumer can, but why doesn't Mr. Schumer talk about how the corn and the soybeans only give them 8% protein versus the snail and insects that give them 50 to 60% protein? Why doesn't he talk about that? He's the doctor, he's the scientist. I have to go looking up a guy from the 40s and 50s that did all of this work to hear these numbers. Why are they not telling the public that? Anyway, breeding
Why are they just
females.
telling the public about a drought and not
Breeding.
all this stuff? That's what I want to know,
Bre-
dude.
well,
Why
why
is
is he?
modern day waterfowl management not talking about that?
Frank Belrose determined that breeding females that had a diet that was in excess of 40% corn, laid 15 to 20% fewer eggs. How about that one, Mike? Did you learn that when you were at the Belrose Center? Did they have that on a plaque somewhere? Or are you teaching that to all these new biologists that I'm just wondering, did you teach that? And, you know, he advocated that we needed to somehow limit the diets of the waterfowl to 34 to 40% at most on corn and stuff, and provide as many more soil units as possible, you know, for bugs. He went on to say, quote, while corn builds fat rapidly, its low minerals cause gout-like disorders in 5 to 10% overwintering birds. Gout-like disorders in 5 to 10%. So we're making 5 to 10% sick of all of them that are camped out on that corn through the winter. 7% incidence in corn-heavy gizzards, phosphorus deficiency, versus 1% in mixed diet. So here's some more quotes. You want me to keep pouring it on, or you want me to stop?
I think it's up
Oh,
to
hang
you.
on.
Whatever you
There's more. Let me keep reading. I want to pour Frank Belrose as somebody we need to hear. Quote, ducks now tethered to corn harvest. A poor yield or early plowing kills thousands. 1965 Illinois drought, 40% pintail die off from corn scarcity. Populations crash 25%. Federal policy, protect 2 million acres of grain fields annually via easements. Those are things he advocated for. Quote, corn is a boon, but not a panacea. Diets exceeding 50% grain yield obese but undernourished ducks, vulnerable to the first famine or freeze. Where have we heard something similar to that? Wasn't there some telemetry study, non-public telemetry study where they supposedly can't figure out why all the birds just froze to death in the field? But yet, if you go backwards in time, here you got Frank Belrose. Let me read it again. Corn is a boon, but not a panacea. Diets exceeding 50% grain yield obese but undernourished ducks, vulnerable to the first famine or freeze. I would say that some of them became vulnerable to the freeze. We lost Josh.
Uh-oh.
Or maybe he got mad and left.
Oh, he's back.
So, I mean, look, all you got to do is go back in time and read a little bit from what these guys, but all these new modern day waterfowl biologists, they want to be the next Frank Belrose or Johnny Lynch without acknowledging that those guys had it figured out. They want to be able to say that, oh, they're the duck doctor. You didn't hear Johnny Lynch saying he was the duck doctor. You didn't hear Frank Belrose saying, I'm the duck doctor. You didn't hear those. Those guys didn't talk like these guys these days. That's where our problem is. They can call us crackpots all they want because we choose to read literature from when men were men, and they didn't brandish labeling people that questioned authority or questioned the supposed authority as being crackpots, liberals, socialists, and label them all this stuff. No, these guys, they actually busted their butt and worked. So, Dr. Duck, go do some studying. You need it, brother, probably more so than anybody else. And take Larry along with you. Because if I have to, I'll show video of Larry Reynolds giving one answer to a question, then 5 seconds later, changing and giving a second answer to the same freaking question on video. Dare me. I'll do it. Anyway, I'm sorry. I was hogging all the talking.
That's okay.
That's what socialists do. We just take over and take control. We want it all for ourselves.
All
what
right.
else you got, Josh?
I'm good, man. It's been a long one. I'm tired.
Whew, it sure has. 2 hours. Where'd all the time goes? Hey,
Oh, yeah.
well maybe we'll break down one day and buy Dr. Duck a cheap whiskey like he talks about on his show, because I wouldn't spend no good money on him.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about ducks and corn and that you whack jobs and nut jobs from Louisiana want to discuss?
I'm good.
Nope, I'm good. That's it for tonight.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit the finish button here in just a second. We did have a couple of viewers, so I want to thank them for the comments, and anybody that watches the show after, after the live, after tonight, after we hit the finish button. Thank you all for watching. Make sure and like and share this out. Go subscribe over on YouTube, because Facebook will delete this after 30 days, but I am going to re-upload all of these so that everybody has them anyway on Facebook as well. All right, guys, it's been fun, but it is now 9 o'clock, and I'm going to hit the finish button. Until next time, see y'all later.
See ya.
Later, guys.